Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you. Access knowledge about the latest policy trends. Discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe. Find solutions in our peer review. Get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon to today's webinar on electric fleets. My name is Katharina Krell. I'm a thematic expert for low-carbon economy with the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, and I'm the main moderator of this event. I'm here with my team, Simon Hunkin, thematic expert for low-carbon economy at the Policy Learning Platform, like myself. Simon will be the rapporteur and man the chat. And Lotte van Meel is our web expert. She will take care of all the technical aspects and help you out should you have any technical issues on the background. Our webinar today is being recorded, and the audience is invited to make active use of the chat, to post your comments and any questions that you might have to our presenters. Simon will monitor the chat. Our webinar is organized by the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform. The Policy Learning Platform is the second pillar of the Interreg Europe program, and our mission is essentially to organize knowledge exchange for local and regional policymakers from all across the EU, beyond the exchanges that happen within individual projects. We have these two, of course. We're having 7 projects in Interreg Europe that have worked on the topic of e-mobility in the last years. And we're having new projects starting soon that will generate a lot of new knowledge. And the Policy Learning Platform examines this knowledge generated in the project and bundles and presents it to anybody who's interested outside of the projects in form of publications that we call policy briefs. You can find in the chat some links to our e-mobility policy briefs. We organize events, physical workshops, but most of it we've organized quite a few webinars on the topic of e-mobility, with knowledge being generated by our projects. And I invite you to discover the e-mobility series. Next slide. We're having here, today is the 4th in the series. We have had 3 earlier ons. We focused on cleaning of public transport, rolling out of charging infrastructure, but also the embedding of e-mobility strategies into territorial planning. Now, the topic that we're having today and next Tuesday are topics that we're treating upon request of the participants of the previous webinars. So the community, you wanted us to talk about fleet electrification, the topic of today, and e-vehicle sharing schemes, and that we will tackle next Tuesday. So today's topic, electrification of fleets. We'll mostly be looking at public fleets, that is fleets under the ownership of a public entity. There is public transport, the most visible public fleet, I guess, but also there are very many service vehicles for police, environmental service, social services, the municipal administrations, etc. It's quite hard to find statistics on the size of public fleets, and I wanted to ask our participants to use the chat and tell us a little bit where you're coming from and how many vehicles does your organization operate. So let us know. Do you have 1, 5, 500? Not yet the poll, please. Just use the chat. Lotte, take the poll, please, back. So just use the chat. We'll have a poll for you later on. For example, the UK Environment Agency has a fleet of 4,000 cars, and they have set the target to go fully electric by 2025. So that's quite ambitious. Public sector fleet managers typically have the conflict between the tight budget and the policy objective of greening the fleet. And on the regulatory side, the revised EU Clean Vehicles Directive is adding pressure because it mandates clean mobility solutions in public tenders since 2021. The directive applies to cars, vans, trucks, and buses whenever they are procured under EU public procurement rules. And it includes purchase, lease, rent, public service contracts, all these schemes. So it has quantified targets by vehicle category and member state, and it is typically the regional and the local administrations and authorities that are concerned by it and that have to implement it. So this is what we want to explore today, these issues with our 4 invited speakers. And I would like to invite you to discover our agenda of the day. We're having the big pleasure to have with us a keynote from Oslo. Oslo has just finished the conversion of its public transport fleet, and Elisabeth Skarsbø Moen from Ruter, the Oslo public transport operator, is going to explain us all about the Oslo e-bus conversion project. Then we are having 3 speakers from Interreg Europe projects. We're first listening to a presentation of Hélder Rodrigues from Ardenne, that's the Portuguese energy agency, about an evaluation and certification scheme for a fleet's energy performance. Then we will look at a smaller municipality in the Zemgales planning region in Latvia, which has introduced e-vehicles for municipal services. Raitis Madžulis is going to hold this presentation. And last but not least, from the Ministry of Environment and Energy in Greece, we will have Yannis Tselikis, who is going to explain about the latest public support scheme for fleet electrification. And after that, we're having a panel discussion on, well, on the intricacies of electrifying fleets. I have the pleasure of having a co-moderator today, Heidi Heikkila from Turku University of Applied Science. Heidi, please just present yourself.
Yes, hello. So I work in Turku University of Applied Sciences for the eBussed project. I'm the project manager, and also I work in several other projects in different roles. eBussed project has been running from 2019, and this is the last year of the project. So we have been accomplishing 6 action plans, as in Interreg Europe we make them, and we have had 6 regions, and I'm happy to see that we have some of our project partners also here. So we have the Finland, Italy, Malta, Hungary, Germany, and the Netherlands with us in the project. And the point of the project is that the regions were in different phases of their fleet electrification. So we have been learning from each other how to promote the fleet electrification and how to get more e-buses where there is already some of them, but how to increase the amount, and also how to integrate renewable electricity production to the charging infrastructure. And as the project is coming to an end, I want to say that all the material we have produced during this project, it's available on the eBussed website. So please do see from there if you are interested in this electrification processes. And also this, it's honor to be here co-moderating, since the fleet electrification, it's important part of the Turku action plan. So we are electrifying the bus fleet and depot in the Turku urban traffic, which is one of the operators in the Turku regional bus network.
Great. So you see, I have a competent co-moderator who will be asking our speakers questions after their presentations. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, everybody. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to Elisabeth for the keynote. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Very well.
Okay. So thank you so much for having me. I'd like to share then how Ruter in Oslo have worked to achieve zero emission from our whole fleet, and that includes boats, buses, trams, and metro. By this year, end of this year, we will reach zero emission in Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, as I sure you know. Ruter is a management company, and we are owned by Viken County, that is Greater Oslo region, and Oslo city. And what we do is that we plan and purchase transport services from operators. So what we have done to achieve this goal is to take on a leading role in developing the market as a purchaser and using our power as in that role. Our strategy, we say, is deliver sustainable freedom of movement. And what we mean with that is that we want the citizens of the region to move freely without leaving any carbon footprints. That can also include not moving at all, so or using their feet, walking or bicycling. Cycling. So we give them advice in our app how to move and to take the shortest way, or maybe the most healthiest way where they are going. So we give them advice on other ways to move around than using our transportation. Transport is the biggest challenge and the biggest source of CO2 emissions in Norway. And making public transport zero emission is a major step towards the political goal of the city of Oslo, and also to the goal of the Greater Oslo region in Viken County, and the part that we cover is called Akershus. Emissions from public transport in Oslo have been greatly reduced since we set ourselves the clear target in 2018. This affects both greenhouse gases and local air quality, of course. And it makes Oslo a better city to live in, with more public transport and less pollution and noise. Our goal, zero emission public transport by 2028. And as I said, we're already close to achieve this goal in Oslo by this year. Almost all public transport in Oslo will be zero emission. That includes, as I said, metro, trams, buses, and ferries. And when I say close to 100%, that is approximately 96, 98. There are two buses that we are not able to make zero emission. That's the only routes that goes through Oslo, and they are small, short routes. And that is due to a bridge and a tunnel that can't take on these buses. But other than that, the whole fleet will be emission-free. And by 2028, we will reach the same goal in the Greater Oslo region. Let me see, did I move a little bit faster? No. So here you will see. Ruter has chosen an early mover strategy. That means that we put in the market or use the market at a dynamic approach to the market, and when it comes to choosing technology. The success lies in the fact that we put the problem out to tender and not the technology. We use the market to improve. As early as in 2012, we participated in a research program with 5 hydrogen buses, and the project is now terminated, and we gained valuable learning together with our supplier through that project. One of them being not choosing the technology, but rather putting the problem to tender. In May 2017, we were asked by our owners, the county of Oslo, or the city of Oslo and the county of Viken, to find out how quickly it would be possible to achieve zero-emission public transport and find solutions that were cost-efficient, as well as effective, the highest possible emission cut. In January 2018, in our report, Emission-Free Public Transport in Oslo and Akershus, we estimated the appropriate time for transitioning to emission-free technology for the various means of transport. The pace was constrained by contract termination dates, by market offerings, availability of adequate bus types, for example, internal and external change processes, and cost and financial feasibility. Based on this, we assumed that the ferries would be emission-free by 2024 and buses in 2028. So basically what we did was to create the market by actively using our purchasing power over time and asking more of our suppliers. At first, we faced an uncertain market and high costs. That changed faster than we expected. We have now a market with more suppliers offering innovative solutions and competitive prices, because they want to compete to participate in this new market, because it makes them also more attractive other places than in Oslo. Ruter has become an even more professional buyer of zero-emission technology, and our suppliers have gained experience in operating electric buses. I will take you through some of the stages of implementation. In November 2017, 3 bus operators started testing 6 electric buses in public service. 3 different charging solutions were tested: slow charging depot, fast opportunity charging, and bus and pole-mounted pantographs. The knowledge gained here was then quickly used to set requirements for zero-emissions solutions in larger bus contracts and bus tendering processes. In 2019, Ruter issued the first change order, that is changing the order that already is in contract for the existing contracts in Oslo overall, to pave the way for 70 new electric buses. 2 lines became fully electric with charging via pantograph at the final stop. Other buses charged on depot. There was also a similar result for buses after tendering for bus services in Oslo South. 109 new electric buses came in 2022. And in April, just this Sunday, 183 buses starting the Oslo inner city contract. So if you come to Oslo inner city now for a weekend, you will drive an electric bus. But we have had some startup problems with that contract, that is to be said, but it's also a large contract. So we hopefully think it will be fixed this week, but all the buses that are put in traffic are still electric, although it's not those new buses, all of them. Planning and purchasing of electric transport solutions is clearly more complex than traditional diesel operations. So far, we see that the cost for infrastructure is more or less similar to the saving in operational costs. By the end of this year, 137 new electric buses, additional to the 183 that we put in operation this weekend, will be implemented, and that concludes a total emission-free fleet in Oslo by the end of 2023. Let me see. I want to talk a little bit also about ferries, since we have expanded it from not only being buses. I hope that is welcomed here. And what we did here is that we, in autumn 2018, decided that Nesodden-sambandet, Nesodden is outside Oslo, but still so close to Oslo by sea that it's operated by ferry. And it's a little bit like Jersey in New York, if you've been there. And we decided that it should be electric. In 2019 and 2020, 3 boats were rebuilt from liquid natural gas to electric operation, and the contract was extended to 2034. The boats were rebuilt as this was seen as a faster, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly solution than building new boats. The fast-changing technology was the first of its kind in Norway. The latest addition to the electric ferry family were 5 island ferries in 2022, traveling to the islands in the inner Oslo fjord. And this was the first tender where we asked for emission-free vessels in the contract. The competition between several providers contributed to a higher quality of service and lower price. We achieved 1 million Norwegian kroner less annual cost, with 10% more volume and 45% more capacity and new vessels. In 2024, all high-speed ferries serving the Oslo fjord will also become electric. Ruter recently issued a change order to convert existing ferries into zero emissions in order to adapt the current high-speed ferries to new robotic battery swap technology. So the greater Oslo region is still not finished. In the summer in 2019, the new bus contract started at Romerike, that is in greater Oslo. In this contract, we had asked for emission-free buses as an option in the tender, only as an option. The market responded, and the result was 39 electric buses. The next contract in Viken was on the west side in greater Oslo in 2020. Once again, the market responded. It was still only an option, but they responded with delivering 41 electric buses into operation. And it was promised that another 128 electric buses will be installed by 2025. There will be new contracts in following years with zero emission. The result will be zero emission in all contracts, all of Ruter contracts by 2028. So the whole region with 1.5 million people will then have emission-free public transport. So our key lessons. Basically, we created the market by actively using our purchasing power. At first, we faced an uncertain market and high costs. That changed faster than anyone could have imagined. We now have a market with more suppliers offering innovative solutions at competitive prices. Ruter has become an even more professional buyer of zero-emission technology, and our suppliers have gained experience in operating electric buses. In general, I can say that Ruter has, through its 10-15-year lifetime, focused on customers, innovation, and technology development. Emission-free public transport makes Oslo a better city to live in, with more public transport and less pollution and noise. We believe that we have succeeded in the path to zero emission. Oslo building is small enough for testing new solutions, but big enough for our solutions to be scaled up to bigger cities. So we hope this inspires other cities so we can use their purchasing power to create the green shift.
Thank you much, Elisabeth. Excellent case study. We're so happy that you're able to present this here. And I know this is like brand new, so we're among one of the first to benefit from a presentation. This is a truly Norwegian model, using the power of innovation and working together with the market players to build the market. I've seen that several times from Norway, so congratulations. Heidi, what are your questions to Elisabeth?
Yes, first of all, I would also like to thank you about the very interesting presentation. And this has lots of similar aspects as in Finland, how we are approaching, or at least in the bigger cities, how we are approaching this and Turku is coming behind you. We have the carbon neutrality goal to be carbon neutral in 29, so 1 year after, and that of course includes the public transportation. But I started to wonder, since you have started early and now you are in the almost in the end of the electrification, that what has been like the biggest obstacles now in the end? Has there been like, I've understood that some bus lines, for example, can be very hard to electrify because they are very long, or there is rough terrain or something like that. So what are the biggest challenges to like put the goal into the end to actually reach the 100%?
Well, the goal from the politicians given to us are close to 100%. So I think we will end up now by 98, I think 98, 99%, with the exception of those 2 bus routes only. So that we will put on bio fuel. But I think the biggest obstacles now is to get our surroundings to understand that the infrastructure is much more demanding than maybe once thought first. One needs room for infrastructure to charge, obviously, although battery quality is increasing. So that made in eyes of politics, or how the politicians think, I think that the infrastructure is what we need to address further. But it seems like that is also, I mean, as a result of having achieved the goal, we of course have the ear of the politicians when it comes to suggesting the solutions. So I think this also will change in the near future. But of course, big areas in city is often wanted to be used for people to build housing on, of course. So that is always a challenge in the city.
May I jump in, since you mentioned infrastructure? Simon, it's a good moment to slide in the questions from the participants.
Yep, certainly. So we have thanks, Elisabeth, for your presentation. So we have 2 questions in the chat, both related to charging solutions. So yeah, we can take them together. The first is asking simply if you could tell us more about the implementation of charging solutions and the challenges being faced. And the second is if you could elaborate on the charging solutions. So when to use pantograph, when to use opportunity charging, and when to use depot charging.
Well, now we're removing the pantographs, and I think that we need to be aware of when implementing this technology in electrification is that the providers or the suppliers, they often want to bind you to one technology, and therefore also the charging technology. And that is what we have avoided. That is the way we have succeeded, because we saw that batteries would be bigger and stronger very fast. And we took a bet on that, and not then choosing one charging technology. So we had pantographs and different kind of 3 types of charging, and now we are, I think so, almost, yeah. We have depot charging now, 100% all through. So we're taking down the last pantograph now this year, which also makes it more flexible, of course, to do it that way. So the point here being that I can't stress enough not to go to bed with one technology, but rather putting the problem to the market than the solution or the technology.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Back to Heidi.
Your solutions seem very similar to what I've heard from, well, in the eBussed project and also in other places in Finland. I was about to ask about the charging also. But then you said that the planning and purchasing of electric transport solutions is more complex than with the diesel buses. So is it possible, could you elaborate on that, like what are the biggest challenges and that you face, or what is the biggest difference compared to diesel buses?
Infrastructure being one of them, but also making sure that the suppliers understand what we want. So we do a lot of work on that. We have big conferences for suppliers that are open, where we have extended dialogue, developing also the market in that way and talking to them, so that and we see that that gives result in the tenders, where when we are talking about topics, they understand how we think, how we are forward looking, and we ask for things that might not be developed yet, but then we suddenly see that it finished and developed and by the market when the tenders come in some maybe a year or so later. So we have these conferences and dialogue conferences with them all the time, developing the suppliers to go further when it comes to technology. But that is of course complex in the way that we need also to be in forefront of the technology and being able to imagine what is not already there. So rather talking about how we want, how we a dream scenario should look like, and how we think that's technology put together could be a solution, but not concluding with how that should be developed. So I think it's the technology knowledge and always being up to speed on the technology development and always setting higher targets for the market. That is what makes it more complex. And of course, again, the next phase in this will be also looking at how emissions from the producing these vessels or vessels. That is also an issue now coming up, the Scope 3 issue, and that is and that will make it even more complex, I think.
Great, thank you very much. Good presentation, good questions, and this is triggering a lot of thought. I would like to ask all the speakers, and I would also like to ask the audience through a poll, how many e-vehicles do you have in your organization? How many, I mean, not necessarily owning, you could just be operating them. And what percentage of all vehicles are electric in your organization? You know, maybe you say you have 2 e-vehicles and that is 100% of your fleet. But so give us a little bit an idea of that. And I would like to extend the question to our speakers while the audience is answering. Yannis, for instance, at your ministry, how many e-vehicles do you have?
To tell you the truth, I don't have exact data because there is another office dealing with public cars, public fleet. However, if I would make a wild guess,
that's good enough.
I'll say something like 5 to 10%. This is because all ministry and all politic staff has electric cars. So I can provide you exact numbers at a later stage when I go to the responsible office and request them.
Hélder, how about Adene? How many e-vehicles and what percentage does that mean?
Currently, we are in the middle of the Lisbon city, so we are well served of public transport. So we don't need that many cars, but we have 6 cars in total. 3 of them are plug-in hybrids and 3 are electric. So that's full electric. So that's 100% of our fleet electric.
Very good. Raitis, how about Zemgale?
Zemgale, our organization is very small, and actually we don't have any transport. We some time ago it was 1 car, but car was only for executive director. But now we have outsourcing service for transport, and we don't have any car. But we have 6 municipalities in the region, And I think that in municipalities, for example, my good practice I will show later in Jelgava cities, they have already 10 years 4 cars, but in percentage I don't know. We didn't gather such information, but yeah, I can try to do this later.
No problem. Well, I won't ask Elisabeth. We have heard. Heidi, how about Turku University?
Well, about the Turku University of Applied Sciences, I actually have no idea. I don't even know how many cars there are. I know I work in a research group and we have electric car. But
that's already good.
I can say from our bus fleet, because that I know from the Ferli that operates the bus traffic in Turku and some surrounding areas. So there is about 200 buses and about 70 of them are electric. And all the time there are new buses coming when the operators get new buses, so new electric buses. So that's at least going well with the bus company, public transport. And the city has a lot of electric cars because, of course, the city has made this goal to be carbon neutral. So, of course, they also have to move with the zero emission cars. So they have a lot, but I have no idea of the numbers.
Right. So we have asked our audience as well, and the picture is very diverse. There are a quarter which has no electric cars, and 40% that answer that it's 1% or less. And then some have 1, some have 2 to 5, some have 6 to 5. 18% have more than 20 electric cars, and 6% have 80% electrified their fleet. So let's see in the chat who you are. Okay, thank you. I would like to introduce our next speaker. So fleet electrification is typically part of an organizational effort to reduce the total carbon emissions. And in this context, of course, it is very important for a fleet owner to know the energy efficiency of the current fleet and the carbon footprint. And this is where the first practice from Portugal kicks in. Hélder, the floor is yours.
Hi, Katharina. Thank you. I'll just share my screen. This works fine.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm here to present this program we have, which is eMOBICITY, and this is basically a classification framework that helps organizations, either public or private, to comply, of course, with EU regulations, but also with the targets of decarbonization of fleets. We are the National Energy Agency of Portugal, and we try to put people in the center of our mission, and while doing that, we try to reinforce Portugal's position in the decarbonization and as an active partner in energy transition. We cover quite a few areas, as you can see here, and of course, one of them being mobility. So about our program. This is a fleet energy classification, and it is a voluntary scheme. So any company with a significant fleet can come and see their fleet classified. It compares and tries to improve the energy and environmental efficiency of these fleets by identifying opportunities to optimize being costs or minimizing the environmental impact. This is a framework that evaluates but tries at the same time to, in a simple way, convey the efforts and the commitment to reduce fleet's environmental footprint. And in parallel to that, it motivates, as it is a simple tool to for communication, it motivates both the stakeholders of this organization. The employees, they are more motivated and they see clearly the target of the company and the results coming in. Also the customers of such company and the suppliers and other partners of this company, basically all stakeholders. We try to induce this cycle of continuous improvement, where we have an audit, we have this classification, which you can see here, the front page of classification, then we have the whole cycle of improvement, and then again preparation for the audit. These are the 4 areas we evaluate practices on. Let's say we have vehicles area, drivers, maintenance, and of course consumption, which basically if you are doing well on the 3 previous ones, you'll see the results clearly on consumption. Attached to this, of course, we have this action plan that organizations are supposed to draft and to follow, and some goals, of course, being them on specific emissions or EV percentage, or other kinds of targets that this plan might have. What do we do in ADEN regarding this program? We train the auditors. So this is we are basically providing the training on this methodology to people for people that then can apply it and in fleets that they see fit and that are interested in that. We ensure, of course, the proper application of this framework. So we ensure the quality of application, and then we keep, of course, the methodology up to date and relevant. So we try to constantly see if it is still relevant to the market, and we issue these certificates that you see here, one of the examples.
You will need to speed up.
Okay, these are the areas that you see here, and regarding EVs, we have these. This is the direct impact of EVs in each of the areas. So in vehicle management, it is very important, and in mileage management, of course, if you are having EVs, you'll see the results coming in as well, as I said before. These are some of the example questions that we have. So these tend to be very specific and closed answer questions that the auditor should fill in. So this is one of the examples, one of the first questions we have on vehicle management, and another on driver management. Regarding the evaluation of EVs per se, we have here 2 of the questions where where EVs, of course, have an impact. One of them is the direct question of how many alternative vehicles of 100% diesel or gasoline there are on the fleet, and you should fill them in. And another one, of course, the specific energy consumption of this fleet. As you can see, the first one is, of course, a direct impact. The second one, more indirect impact. What do we see regarding our fleets? The fleets that are already in this system. In this program, we have an average percentage of fleets with 22% of electric vehicles. And one trend that we've seen is that the bigger the percentage of light-duty freight vehicles, the lower the EVs on the fleet. I think this is expected. The market is still not covering that area in a good way. So what we're trying to do is, in a way, try to identify these best-in-class fleets, let's say, and try to convey to other fleets that they can indeed increase their they can still increase their the percentage of EVs in their fleets, as we have other examples that are already a little bit ahead of in the electrification route. We do see as well that the emissions are slowly but steadily reducing. The specific emissions of the fleets we classify, and we do see that the worst performers tend to easily pick up the pace, let's say. But this is something that we've seen with good eyes, let's say, that the fleets that we are monitoring are actually reducing their emissions. However, not in a fast pace, not with the pace we would like, because if we extrapolate this trend, we will only get zero emissions by 2080. So this is probably not great news, let's say.
1 minute.
Yeah. Regarding policy recommendations, of course, we already touched some of them. Of course, the part of infrastructure is really important. Also, securing subsidies for EVs is also important. But I'd say regarding our program that we have here, fostering demand-side fleet decarbonization schemes is indeed, we see this as a very important step. This will allow for transparency in fleet decarbonization initiatives and make it easier for organizations to convey their efforts. We also allow this demand-side schemes also allow for competition in green procurement. You can show easily that you have better fleets and better energy efficiency. But also it helps to have extensive data sets to support public policy improvement. And of course, regarding transferability, this is a voluntary certification. And the scheme is pretty easily transferable, I would say. So I'll be now open to questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hélder, very much. I hand over directly to Heidi.
Yes, thank you. This seems really useful scheme, and that's why I would like to talk about the transferability a bit more. So, how the fleet owners have welcomed this scheme, and is there like a lot of other interested partners coming to join, or how is the situation?
Yeah, we do see some people. As you could see, we had 22% of electrification. So these are, of course, companies that already are, they took already the first steps, and they are interested in showing that in a clear way to the market. We are now seeing more and more interest in such scheme, mainly because we are expanding it to freight and also to public transportation. And here, this is let's say that there's a business side to it, and actually efficiency, cost benefits. So companies are interested in a framework that helps them explore these opportunities, for sure.
We have, I don't know, no question from the chat. So Heidi, you have another one, or we move on?
Yeah, well, I wanted also to ask that, has there been like any challenges or like opposing from the fleet owners towards this scheme? Like, but as you said that they are the ones that are already interested in this kind of
sure. Although, but Heidi, you're right. So there are, we have here, let's say, we are starting to see that we have two ways in. One is from the sustainability and quality side, another one from fleet management side. And we are usually more welcomed on the environmental and quality side, let's say. But we do see that an interesting trend we've been noticing is that fleet managers are more and more aware of these problems, and If 3 years ago they would say, no way, I don't want electric vehicles at all. Today they say, okay, this is coming, and as soon, if you give me chargers, I'm okay with it.
Okay. But that's great that it's changing.
I think there's also the regulatory pressure. I mean, the Clean Vehicles Directive is forcing the public sector to look at the topic.
Sure.
Great, but thank you for this interesting analytical framework. And I would like to move to our next presentation. So we know that the transitioning to electric vehicles is more, it's more than swapping one fossil fuel vehicle for another electric vehicle if we want to organize the whole fleet switch. But very often it starts with just 1 or 2 or 4 cars, especially in smaller municipalities, and very often induced by the availability of public funding. So this is also what happened in Latvia, and Raitis will explain us this case study. Raitis, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Raitis Madžulis. I'm from Latvia, from Zemgale planning region.
We still don't see it full screen.
Wow. Okay, once more. Sorry.
Better, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And I will tell you about electric cars for municipal services in our region in Jelgavas city. Firstly, shortly about the location, where is some maps, where is the Zemgale planning region, and where is the division in counties. And you see Jelgava is very close to capital city Riga. Our basic work is based on the development planning and planning of development documents, and main policy instrument in our region is development program. And in new program we have a special priority number 4, mobility. In e-mopoli project we additionally elaborated one additional planning document, the mobility plan 2030. And as you see in why it's so important, our municipalities usually they need agreed their projects and their investment plans with regional programs. Therefore, I tell you why it's so important. And in our mobility priority, you can read some points which is mentioned. We will work on these points until 2027. And before good practice presentation, 4 slides about future, what we put in our development program is priority. One is, of course, mobility centers for inhabitants, small scale like scooters and so on, and bicycles. Then European level big project, Rail Baltica railway project. There you can see in second picture regional station, and we will develop regional dimension. Then it's hydrogen buses, a lot of negotiations about this possibility. And another one picture, it will be later, a little bit more, it will be driverless transport we tested some years ago. But concerning electro cars in Jelgava city, before that, there you can see increasing of amount of electro vehicles in Latvia in total. And you see Jelgava city bought 4 e-cars for municipal service in 2014, 2015. It was time when it was Norway Climate Support Fund come to Latvia and offer possibility to buy car for municipalities. And there you can see it's about 200 only in whole Latvia. Half of them was, I think, bought from this Norway fund. And now, last 3 years, you can see that every year we increasing amount of cars in double. And we can account about 4,000 now. In Zemgale region, it is 200 only, because about 90% of them located in Riga city, capital city. But Jelgava as capital city of Zemgale region, accounting 1/3 of Zemgale regional amount. And it is in Zemgale, we account only 5% from all Latvian vehicles. And the same, I can say, it's about charging network station, charging station network. It's you can see that half of them in Riga and in regions, some of them. That means, yeah. About good practice, Jelgava City Municipal Police purchased 3 electrical cars, and Jelgava City Municipal Communal Agency 1 car to replace the ordinary service cars. And the electric cars, as I told before, it was co-financed by Latvian governments through climate change financial instrument and from EU structural funds. And municipal police officers use the electric vehicles to provide traffic monitoring, control compliance with local government regulations, some daily inspections, and everyday works and duties what policy should do. And during this time, they used about 50 kilometers a day. It's an average. A little bit more in summertime, little bit less in winter time. And all 4 industrially produced cars was from Volkswagen, yep. And beneficiary are Jelgava City Municipality, Communal Service and Municipal Policy. Total cost was 100,000 euros, and for this year, those years when they using cars, CO2 reduction is about 31 ton for all 4 cars together. And we account during this time, they mileage is currently about 50,000 kilometers. And for such city as Jelgava, for information, Jelgava account 60,000 inhabitants. It's very good result. And then it's one more activity in frame of e-mopoli project. We organized very important information of society, and we organized some information event like gathering of e-vehicles, and a lot of people came to this event, and we gathering about 1/2 of Jelgava e-cars. It was about 35 cars here, and there you can see in some pictures e-buses is like additional good practice. It's not this project, it's another one, but Jelgava City, smart city, continued this policy. On the 2 years ago, we started with 4 buses in Jelgava City for passengers, and there is main benefit is about 182 tons CO2 per year, and it's good for city. And Jelgava bus park plans to use electricity at exchange price and to charge the buses at night when price of electricity sometimes is even more than 20 times lower. and it was in frame of project, and funding was a bit more than 2 million euros. And there is another experience. It's our regional administration project, driverless robobus. We tested in Jelgava, in another city, but it shows that Jelgava is a smart city, and they consequently going to aim, and maybe in questions it will be, but I will answer this is what is main problems, but it is actually what I would like to say concerning these good practices in Jelgava city. Latvia supports Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raitis. It's good to see how things are progressing in Zemgale. I hand over to Heidi.
Yes, thank you. It was interesting to hear about especially about the citizen engagement part in this, because we have now talked a lot about infrastructure and funding and all that, but also the users are very important part. So since you have introduced electric vehicles to the citizens, what kind of feedback have you got from them, from the electrification and all that? And also it would be interesting to hear what feedback you have got from the driverless cars.
Concerning e-cars, it was no some special events. It was information in city newspaper and some social medias, and the people are mostly very positive and like happy. In the event what we organized, this gathering in field, mostly there came families with kids, and it was like more like show, like spending of free time for families. Of course, owners of cars informed about cars, about everyday duties, how to charge and so. But I think most idea was not to get some knowledge about electro cars, but it was just show where you could put any car on place and some. But of course, it was agreement with Riga dealer centers, and there came some for reclama, for advertisement, some new models, some BMW and Audi, and of course they gathering most part of visitors. Concerning driverless bus, it was interesting because if you compare visitors, if you compare in frame of project, such testing was even in Kalundborg, no, in I forget this Norway city, but in Norway, in Gdansk in Poland, in Helsinki in Finland, and Tallinn, Estonia. In our city was smallest one, but in percentage it was highest attention from people, and they are very positive. A lot of tourists which visited Jelgava city came to this driverless, and we made a lot of questionnaires. It was a request from project to make some questionnaire about what people thinking about it, and it was interesting. Oldest generation said that, yeah, it's good, but it's something little bit scaring, and so youngest people said, it's okay, but we need some screens with music, we need more Wi-Fi, we need something like that. That means attention was from public very different, but mostly positive.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We still have a speaker and then a little discussion with very interesting questions planned. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about cost, because transitioning to electric vehicles requires capital investment upfront, cover the incremental additional cost of electric vehicles, cost of charging, and perhaps grid upgrades. to ease the burdens, there are several funding opportunities available, and Yannis is going to present us such a public support scheme. Yannis, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Katharina. Good afternoon to everybody. We are the e-mobility office at the Ministry of Energy, Environment and Energy in Greece. Let me share. Is it okay? Can you see?
Yes.
All right, thanks very much. Okay, let's start with some facts and figures for the e-mobility market in Greece. I was instructed to focus much on private companies and public fleet. So I'll try to be more specific on that. In the beginning, just to give you some numbers, in Greece we are about 11 to 12 million inhabitants, so we are similar to Portugal, and we got in circulation at the end of 2021 we got 6.6 million cars, out of which 5.4 million are passenger cars. You notice that the average age is quite high, so it will be quite difficult to electrify the fleet in short terms as in Norway and Finland, but we are making some effort for that. You see in the graph at your right hand, you see the exponential increase at the EV market passenger, new EV passenger car registrations since 2019. An encouraging fact is that the market share reached in 2022 approximately 7.9% of the total car registrations. And till the end of February 2023, we got around 20.6 thousand cars in circulation. The total market share is 22.9%. Now, within the last 2 years, we managed to pass two very important laws. Firstly, the e-mobility law back in 2020, with main provisions it legislates subsidy schemes for buying or leasing cars and private chargers. It imposes environmental fee to Euro 4, 3,000 euros, Euro 5A, 1,000 euro, and ban of Euro 1, 2, and 3 imports. We provide tax benefits for companies and individuals for buying or leasing EVs, and imposes commitments to public sector for new EV purchases according to EU Directive 1161. At least 125% in the total mix of passenger cars must be electric. Last July, in the new national climate law, we have set the deadline of January 1st of 2035 for registrations only for EV vehicles, according to the EV directive for CO2 emissions. Another important provision is that since January 1st of 2026, new taxis in Athens and Thessaloniki must be zero emission. Again, since January 2026, at least 1/3 of new vehicles registered for leasing purposes in the area of Athens and Thessaloniki must be zero emission. And finally, since January 1st, 2024, at least 1/4 of the new company cars purchased or leased must be zero or low emission. Now, let's see the subsidy schemes that are currently in place in Greece. Go Electric will be, I will give you more details in a while about that. Go Electric is a national subsidy scheme. It started back in 2020 and it still runs. Green taxes, this is a 40 million subsidy scheme to replace around 2,000 old taxis, Euro 5 or older, with battery electric, with obligatory withdrawal and scrappage. It started in January, and this is funded by RRF, Recovery and Resilience Fund. e-Astypalia is dedicated to enterprises and inhabitants of the island of Astypalia in the context of smart and sustainable island. And finally, dedicated exclusively to municipalities, it's running the subsidy scheme Antonis Trichis, this is the name of the politician, which funds with 100% funds for purchases of up to 10 municipal fleet EVs like passenger cars, vans, etc., etc. Forthcoming, we've got another 2 schemes, which is a charge everywhere. This is for publicly available charging points. This is a very important program because car owners must be convinced that charging stations are available, because they are feared now to buy an electric car. And finally, Produce Green, which is for manufacturing units with an R&D department. There is another scheme that it's running. It's not mentioned here. It's the electrification of the public transport. This is also funded by RRF with 100 million, and it's expected by the end of 2024, 220 electric buses will circulate in the area of Athens and Thessaloniki.
2 minutes.
Yes, and now let's pass to the main national subsidy scheme, which is the Go Electric. Basically, let's focus to enterprises and legal entities. They can purchase a battery electric vehicle for up to 1 to 20 battery electric vehicles, with a subsidy coming up to 8,000 per BEV. And if they purchase more than 21 BEVs, the subsidy goes down to 20% and up to 6,000. In islands, an extra bonus of 4,000 euros is given per car. The same, of course, we subsidy electric 2- or 3-wheelers and electric bicycles. For enterprises, again, we can subsidize up to 10 vehicles, and for electric, for 2- or 3-wheelers, and for electric bikes, and an enterprise can be subsidized for up to 10 e-bikes. So far, we consider the program successful for the first 8 months of the second cycle. We have around 15,000 applications, with 26 of them being for cars, passenger or low commercial vehicles, and 26%, 36% for e-bikes, and 38% for 2- or 3-wheelers. Okay, I think my time ran out, or can I go to the next slide? This is the last one.
Last slide, yes.
Yeah,
1
this
minute.
is the last.
Come
This
on.
is the last one. In parallel with the subsidy schemes, we give some EV use incentives, like free parking in city parking zones, or free circulation in Athens Green Ring, no road tax for passenger cars and motos, no registration cars for no registration tax for passenger BEVs, and then it goes. They pay a registration tax according to the emission according to the emissions they have, and no luxury commodity task for BEVs. Okay, that's all. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Okay, one question from Heidi, and then we move to the panel discussion. Thank you very much, Yannis. Quite a complete and good support scheme, I would say.
Yes,
Thank you.
I would say the same. But one thing I was wondering, you already mentioned about the charging infrastructure, that especially if there is very ambitious goals in Athens and Thessaloniki, that how are you planning to support the charging infrastructure and the infrastructure in general within the electric grid, that they are able to, or the people who get the EV, they are able to charge their cars, and the electric infrastructure is also there to support the increase?
Yeah. Okay, it's a good question, that. I think we approach it in two ways. One is the implementation of municipalities' charging plans. Most of them have already submitted to the ministry. This was their obligation, their charging plans. And now we pass in the implementation phase. Implementation means a tender, a public tender, where CPOs will come and implement the charging plan. One approach is this. The second approach, we are expecting the new regulation for the alternative fuel infrastructure, the so-called AFIR, which will come from the European Union, which imposes certain restrictions, or how can I say, measures for distances and power in the TNT network around Europe, not only Greece. For example, for passenger cars in the TNT network must be a minimum of 60-kilometer distance between pool stations. We think in parallel with that, there will be shortly, we will run a tender for taxi parking areas in Greece and in Athens and Thessaloniki, and that will this goes in parallel with the green taxis program, because we have to encourage taxi drivers to buy a green taxi, you know, an electric taxi, but we got to provide him also a publicly accessible charging point. Anyway, we're optimistic that we can make it. Of course, connection to the grid is an issue. Here, the local DSO, distribution system operator, says that he will support us. He will support us with the grid expansion. We don't fear, and we go ahead. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think the infrastructure is really a key. The people have to feel confident. I would like to open the discussion to all the speakers and use the last minutes to discuss a few fundamental questions. First two questions, I think, belong together, and I invite you to reflect on them. So the first question is how important it is for the public sector to lead by example when it comes to electrifying mobility. And the second question related to that is, do you expect that the cost for electrification is going down over time? We all think yes. And then connected to that, when would be the best time to electrify the fleet? Knowing the first question, is it important for the public sector to lead by example? So I would like to hear your thoughts on these. Please all turn on your camera, and who wants to go first?
Maybe I can start my opinion from Latvia case.
Please.
It's of course, in my opinion, it's very important. And good examples from public management. It is very important for other society, but actually, I think that most force for electrification of transport is cost efficiency. If I told that, if I said that, for example, 4 electro buses save CO2, but in money, the director of bus park say we saved during 9 months 80,000 euros. If you account that the project was 3.2 million for 4 buses, that means about that means some 800,000 for each during 10, even not 10 years. It's during some 5-6 years. They will be cost efficiency covering this cost for 5-6 years. I think economical side is very important for starting to do this. It is one point. And second question was about, second was, you asked about.
Yeah, I think you already answered it.
Already, okay, thank you, yeah.
When's the best moment to electrify, knowing that the costs are going down over time? So is it better to wait or to lead?
Yeah.
It's
problem.
The dichotomy.
You see, problem was last year, actually.
Let's hear the others, Raitis, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Hélder, what is your opinion?
I'll say that it is very important. We see that in other sectors, that the finger is easily pointed to the public sector to say that they need to give the example. So in transportation or in mobility, same thing applies. And regarding the, is it the right moment now? We do expect, as you've well put, that the prices go down in time, but for quite a few or quite a significant share of the use cases of a fleet or of a car, it makes already economic sense. So it's not that we are even increasing the costs of fleet operation. We are already decreasing them. So in those, we should advance right away. And maybe in the long tail that we have of other use cases that maybe are actually a small percentage of the fleet, we may wait a little bit for it to make even more economical, or to start making to have economical sense, let's say, on those.
On the economic sense, I would like to hear the thoughts of Elisabeth. You have mentioned the costs have been higher at the beginning, and now you're making savings. So how did that happen over time? And if you have to do it again, what do you recommend?
Well, I think our example shows that early movers are also developing markets, and through that get lower prices, because what we have done, our case shows that I think it's a 10% lower cost now than we had in with regular transportation. And this is because of the fact that these suppliers want to position them in new markets, and therefore the competition is also so high that they see it as a competitive advantage to go into zero emission, and therefore also we have as a result of that lower prices. So I think seeing zero emission as a competitive advantage is fairly well known now in all industries, and to be attractive as a bidder, that also applies for price. So I think those two goes together, really. That's what our case shows, at least.
Is it somehow the responsibility and the role of the capitals, or let's say the leading cities, to be the forerunner, to de-risk the models for the smaller municipalities to follow?
Yeah, definitely. But of course, this is also a system of governing. I mean, the politicians set the target and we do the job. So that is that's a task for us to solve. So so that is so we don't have a choice really. But I think it's important that the politicians set targets and then markets will follow.
Yannis, your subsidy schemes, they reward the early movers, and the subsidies are also running out, perhaps expecting that the market will develop and cost will go down. Is that also a signal to encourage the first movers?
Of course, a subsidy scheme is always, you know, a reason for the first movers, but I think the subsidy scheme must continue, must go on till the cost of the cars reduces significantly. This is the main problem that I see, and I don't see in short terms a significant reduction in the production cost. This is, of course, due to the war in Ukraine as well, you know, and other reasons. And I believe that if no subsidy schemes run in parallel, it would be difficult for, especially for individuals and municipalities, to buy or lease an electric car. In any case, EU is driven by Green Deal and Fit for 55 policies, according to which there will be no conventional cars, no conventional car production starting from year 2035. So all industry will focus on producing electric cars, and I believe that this is a key point that will reduce within the next 4 to 5 years the cost of purchasing an electric car.
I guess so. And you have mentioned purchasing or leasing. That leads to my next question. We understand that the operational costs for e-vehicles are lower compared to fossil, combustion engines. However, the upfront costs of purchasing are higher. What appears to be the better option, to purchase the car or to try to procure the service? And is leasing an option for smaller municipalities as well, or is it just something that the suppliers offer to large buyers? So whoever wants to take first.
Can I answer that in the beginning? Okay. From what we see from our experience, leasing is the best option for private companies because they want to renew their fleet every 3 to 4 years. This is something that happens for almost all companies. In municipalities, we see that if they don't go for the leasing option, they go for the purchasing option. And this is because the subsidy scheme that run in Greece, at least, they subsidize purchasing and not leasing. I don't know if there are any other examples in other countries to share with, but it seems that municipalities prefer the purchasing option here in Greece.
Reactions? Elisabeth, you have.
If I should say something, I think the model that Ruter has and has shown good success is that we don't own any vehicles. We have only contracts with operators, and and uses that power. Can use that power also to move the market and also transfer technology faster. So we're not clinging to one technology. And also, as you've heard, in our contract, there is built in an option to change the contract during the period as new technologies develop, which is also important.
That is something that struck me during your presentation. You mentioned twice, how did you call it? Change orders. And I think this is of extreme interest to all the public entities. And I know from my experience working with public bodies in the south of Europe, a great fear of changing anything to running public contracts by fear of contest. Yeah. And I think it will be very interesting to look into how you do that. So you build in the possibility for a change order in the first place.
Yes, and then we work with we have people here who are called contract developer or operator developers. So they're working closely with developing the operators as we go along with the contract. Also looking into technology, so that they're also up to speed in technology.
This is very interesting. Well, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of our 90 minutes, and I don't want to keep you nor the audience. We have had another webinar where we were looking at the electricity system and what it means if electric charging puts suddenly a lot of stress on the grid. So check that out as well. And tune in next week to our next series where we look at sharing options, specifically with a focus on electric vehicle sharing. We have heard a lot of interesting comments that give us food for thought to follow up on. I think especially on the use of public procurement and the contracting and the contract design, we can learn a lot from Scandinavia overall. I think Norway and Finland, I don't know in how far Sweden, but definitely these two have very interesting models. And the rest of Europe is using not enough this power. And then we have heard from very good subsidy schemes also in other contexts. The Greek scheme is likely to change the market a lot. Hélder, you have been presenting on the analytical framework, but I know there is a lot of other practice going on in Portugal as well. So as usual, it's beautiful to have the contributions from everybody. Small municipalities in Zemgal region, not to be forgotten, of course. And thank you from Heidi to slide in examples from Turku through the co-moderation. Thank you to all the speakers, thanks to the team, and thanks to the audience for having participated and being patient until now. You will receive a follow-up email with the recordings, and we will make available all the presentations shared very shortly. Thank you very much, and a good afternoon to everybody, and keep lowering the emissions, I would say.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.